Technology moves fast, and now so can you. Discover Polestar, the all-electric performance brand vehicles redefining how we drive. Precision engineering, minimalist design, and software that evolves with you. Experience it at Holden Group in Norwich and Bury St Edmunds, or let us bring the test drive to your door. Proud sponsors of the Cambridge Tech Podcast. Polestar, electric performance, redefined. Discover at holdengroup.co.uk/Polestar. Welcome to the Cambridge Tech Podcast, talking all things technology from the heart of the UK's tech capital. Here are your hosts, Faye Holland and James Parton.
I'm Faye.
And I'm James. So Faye, how was your week last week?
It was a good week again, thank you. Lots of meetings, met with Corrosion Radar, Paula Rogers-Brown, Maria Payman, and of course lots and lots of people. We spent quite a lot of time together, didn't we, last week? We had the Trinity Bradfield Prize, which we'll come on to, and the Form Future annual conference. So it was a good week of getting out and seeing people again.
Yeah, absolutely. I know I did loads of things last week, but my brain is still melting down from the Trinity Bradfield Prize. So that's kind of all I can think of at the moment. So
that
obviously,
was quite a lot though, James.
Yeah, that kind of dominated the week. Obviously, the Form the Future conference was great. Lots of really interesting people that we got the chance to chat to there. So I guess this week's episode is all about the prize. So I don't really need to say much more at this stage, do I?
Let's save that for in a moment then. So let's crack on with the news. We're going to start with news from New Quantum, Cambridge's fast-growing quantum computing company. They have announced that they're set to open a new subsidiary in Spain, where founder and CEO Dr. Carmen Palacios Berrocero was born and raised. The facility will create more than 30 new jobs and will be a leading centre for quantum networking and photonic infrastructure for distributed quantum computing. These additional 30 roles will now increase the New Quantum team size to close to 100 across the 3 locations of Cambridge, Los Angeles and Spain. The investment was made by the Ministry for Digital Transformation and Public Administration through the Spanish Society for Technological Transformation and on behalf of the Spanish government, and it represents a partial pro quo for a Spanish investment of 9.7 million euros in the company's 51 million euro Series A round at the end of last year.
Fabulous. Moving on, 5 banking giants have pledged to inject £11 billion into helping UK companies scale here and overseas. Senior executives from NatWest, HSBC, Barclays, Lloyds Banking Group and Santander finalised an agreement with the government last week at a roundtable convened by Business Secretary Peter Kyle and the CEO of UKEF, Tim Reed. The lending package is designed to help UK companies invest and expand abroad to grow their businesses and the economy at a stroke.
Also last week, the government announced a £36 million investment to upgrade the Dawn supercomputer at the University of Cambridge, aimed at increasing its computing power 6-fold and significantly expanding access to high-performance AI compute in the UK. The investment aims to tackle long-standing limitations on access to advanced computing for UK researchers, startups and SMEs. By expanding Dawn's capacity through AI research resource programme, the government can now provide wider free access to cutting-edge AI chips, enabling UK researchers and businesses to work with larger data sets, develop more complex models, and accelerate breakthroughs in areas such as healthcare, environmental modelling, and public service delivery. And deployment is aiming to begin in spring of this year.
Cambridge company TerraView, a pioneer and leader in terahertz technology and solutions, has become the first UK company to list on KOSDAQ, the secondary Korean stock market for small to medium-sized high-growth technology and venture companies. TerraView supports companies such as Nvidia, AMD, Intel, Samsung, Ford and Volkswagen and other major Fortune 500 companies via the provision of terahertz systems for product development, quality assurance and inspection. TerraView will use the $26 million in capital raised to enhance its customer support and innovate its products and technology in its target markets in AI and automotive battery inspection, as well as other existing and emerging markets. Manufacturing capacity and investment in R&D for terahertz technology will also be expanded.
Brilliant. And the final piece of news today is just a quick heads up to everyone. Tickets are now being released for the Kickstart events taking place across the UK for this year's Cambridge Tech Week. So if you're interested in finding out more, head over to the Cambridge Tech Week website to sign up for the newsletter.
Wonderful. So this week's episode is a special deep dive into the Trinity Bradfield Prize. So let's find out more.
James, it's that time of year. I get to interview you again.
Yes, Trinity Bradfield Prize time.
That's it. So why don't we start with a quick recap of the competition? Why was it set up? A little bit of the background to it?
So yeah, we launched back in 2018 and we've now had over 500 teams apply and given away £155,000 in prize money. A whole bunch of our alumni have gone on now to raise significant venture capital, which is fantastic. And the prize is simply there to encourage and assist young scientists, engineers and entrepreneurs at the University of Cambridge to translate their ideas, their inventions, their products into companies.
So one thing that actually might be useful, because I do get confused sometimes as well, where does this fit in the whole scheme of all of the other activities that go on within the university entrepreneurship ecosystem?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. I mean, the great thing about the University of Cambridge is there's so much going on. And we've had many guests on in previous episodes helping to unpick all of that stuff. But in a very typical Cambridge way, there wasn't a top-down strategy. Things things spring up all over the place and a natural order develops. So the way I see things, so this is only a personal opinion, is you have really early stage programs inside the university, which is more around encouraging students to kind of think about entrepreneurship, start to dip a toe in the water, start to explore their own ideas and collaborate with each other. So some examples of that are iTeams, Judge Business School, the King's eLabs, Homerton Changemakers, and the Impulse program. And then as the ideas develop and there's more structure, there's a team forming around those ideas, then you get things like the Trinity Bradfield Prize and the postdoc venture creation competition from Cambridge Enterprise. And then when you look further upstream, as you progress through those competitions, you then see teams move into more structured accelerators, more programmatic kind of style of programs with things like the Founders Program from Cambridge Enterprise again. So there's really something for everyone at every stage of their development, which I think is really exciting.
Yeah, and they all have different approaches as well, don't they? And what I like about Trinity Bradfield Prize is it's more than just the pitch competition.
Yeah. I mean, I think we've worked hard and tried to be thoughtful about so many competitions. You show up, you pitch, you get a check, you shake hands, and that's the end of it. We're trying to, make sure that you get that sense of community, that sense of alumni, and there's connectivity between the different years. So one thing that really pleased me from the final this year was we actually had 5 returning teams from previous years, which not only is inspirational to the people pitching for the first time, but it's also great for the investors in the room, for the audience in the room, just to, get updates on progress, right? So we recently introduced a thing called the Angel Prize with John Yeomans, which is specifically there to recognize and reward the team from the previous year that's demonstrated the most commercial progress. And that's deliberate, right? Because the whole competition's there to support and encourage people to take that next step.
I think sitting there in the audience, you really got the feel of that. I think it came across really well because you had the early stage and then the alumni. And I know we're going to go through and talk about some of those in a moment, but you also talked about how collaborative it all is. And you had pretty much the same judges again this year, didn't you?
Yeah, we did. Yeah. I think what I really love about our judging panel is first and foremost, they're all subject matter experts, so I might sound negative here. This isn't like a superficial pitching competition where really you're picking people's ability to present. There's actually the expertise in the judging room to really go deep on the technology and the science, which I think is really important. So the bit that you don't see in the final is part of the shortlisting process. The teams actually have to supply technical papers. And, there's rigorous review of those papers as well to ensure that the ideas and the innovation has credibility. So our chair of judges is Sir Greg Winter. In his own right, is a very successful entrepreneur, Nobel laureate. We've got Kerry Baldwin, who's a co-founder of IQ Capital. We've got Christine Martin, who's head of ventures at Cambridge Enterprise. And we've got John Yeomans and Robert Swan, again, both successful entrepreneurs and Cambridge Angels. So huge amounts of experience, huge amounts of technical and scientific knowledge.
I like the fact that you've just explained the extra process that everyone goes through, because as you know, I pride myself on always picking the winners.
Yes, I was going to ask you actually, who did you have in your top three?
Well, I'm not going to tell you the names, but what I will tell you is they're different.
Yeah, so were mine. I think we were there or thereabouts, but you've judged many competitions as well. It's not an easy thing, right? And another thing that I think separates our competition from other competitions is the variety. It's deliberately open. So how do you compare, potential cancer treatments against things like photonics, or in previous years, endometriosis detection and early treatment against power supplies for data centers? These are really difficult things to compare against each other. So there's no doubt it can get tense in the judging room.
Yeah, I'm sure. Was it tense? I mean, did people come in? Because if they're doing the prep work, they're definitely going to come in with their top 3, 4. And then how much discussion is there?
Yeah, there's a lot of discussion. I think everyone has a personal favorite that they champion. And, it's obviously a democratic process. Sometimes, the judges will look to the expert in the room in the subject matter. Other times, you get a quick consensus. Sometimes someone just smashes it and everyone is unanimous, right? But yeah, there's always debate. And this year wasn't too bad. Some years we've been deliberating for 30, 40 minutes. It's hard.
Yeah. I mean, you fed us while you're all deliberating, so that's always really good. And it was great to catch up with so many people that's there. So let's, I guess, move on and meet the winners. So we're going to start in the order that they were presented yesterday, with the winner first. There was no great big drum roll or anything. It was straight in. So we're going to do the same today. So we're going to go straight to GreenMixes. We've got Callan and Dushanth with us today. So welcome both of you. Congratulations for being the first prize winner.
Yeah, well, hello. Thank you for having us. We're still, quite elated and excited about yesterday's win, and looking forward to talking about it a bit more.
Brilliant. And I have to say, I heard you present at the postdoc venture competition, and that was only a few months ago. And I have to say, your pitch was way improved. It wasn't bad in the first place, but actually the progress in those last few months was really good. So did you feel like it was improved?
Very much so. Honestly, I think we were working on it last week and the week before. And as you mentioned, I think we were quite proud of our PVCC presentation. But then I think about maybe an hour or two of revamping it, we were just like, how did we present this? Compared to what we had before, it's quite amazing, how in that sort of first year of a venture, just how much everything can change. And we very much are kind of in that middle, that sort of exponential growth. We're quite excited to see how this same pitch is going to change, in the next 2 to 3 months as well.
Yeah, and indeed, it was Omid Sagafifa from Remedium. His presentation a year later was supremely polished. So that, I think that's really good motivation for everyone. But anyway, enough about the pitching. Tell us about GreenMixes. What is it that you do, and what problem are you going to solve?
GreenMixes is a venture that has been developing an admixture to turn concrete, which is one of the world's leading climate problems, into a carbon sink. So overall, 8% of global CO2 emissions comes from cement, which is one of the fundamental components of concrete. And what we've done is convert biochar or functionalized biochar to integrate it into concrete. And that way we can actually lock up a lot of carbon, way more than what competitors are able to do, and overall sort of combat the general climate problem.
So what do you see, what does the opportunity look like in terms of the kinds of customers you're looking to attract and the size of the market opportunity?
Callum, you go.
I think actually one of the things that we've done is kind of really hone in on the value proposition. And one thing that we found when we're talking to people is actually kind of if you were to bid on a building, if you want to be the construction company of that, the importance of the sustainability criteria is actually growing more and more. So companies like Scottish Water, they're kind of mandating kind of low carbon projects. So our value kind of is providing a cheap way to decarbonize so that these companies can kind of boost that criteria and then go on and win those tenders. And I think another interesting thing from the pitch last night is we're looking at kind of all the industries, and some are, 8 billion or whatever, but the concrete industry is worth, 800 billion alone. And then when you kind of take that back to construction, that's 13 trillion. So I think the market opportunity there is pretty ginormous.
Awesome. Yeah. A couple of kind of forward-looking questions, I guess. Number one, what are you going to do with the prize money? And number two, what does the near future look like for the company?
So for the prize money, I think, as we said in the pitch, the main thing is about actually just producing a ton of admixture. The construction and concrete industry is a very hands-on industry. And so our plan is to genuinely make about 15 tons of the admixture and just get it into the hands of any interested party, whether that be local councils that want green projects, some of the colleges that might want new paved ways that are also climate friendly. We have a couple of partners who we're hoping to set up pilots with. Each one of those pilots can range anywhere from 2 to 5 tons of the product. And so, it's about just getting the product into the hands of engineers, contractors, and then getting them to make concrete structures with it and just do sort of real world evaluation testing on the whole.
Amazing. I mean, obviously you had a load of interest on it during the evening, but for the folks listening that didn't make it to the final, how can people reach out to you if they want to get in touch?
We have a LinkedIn page. So if you could follow us on there, it's GreenMixes. And we're currently in the stages of developing a website and kind of making it less resistance to kind of reach us, for sure.
Brilliant. Well done to you on winning the first prize. So let's move on now to the second prize, which was Maricene. And with us today, we have Keshav. So hi, Keshav.
Hello. Hi, Faye.
So my first question to you, Keshav, was I've not actually come across Maricene before yesterday evening. So was that the first competition that you've been involved in, or have you looked at other entrepreneurial competitions in the university?
That was actually the first competition that we got involved with. But previously, we had participated in the last year's cohort of Santander X and pitched there too. But we did not make it to the finals there. But this time, yes, we came back and improved our pitch. And yes, it has seemed that, yes, it's improved a lot.
So it's a good story of resilience there. If you don't first succeed, come back and try again. What benefit did you get? Did you enjoy the workshops as well as the pitching event?
So the workshops were quite helpful. It didn't feel more like a competition, but more like orientation for us, as in everyone was really involved and we got to learn from each other's presentations. And our mentors, James and Maximilian, both were really supportive with their comments. So yes, it was a constant back and forth, and it really helped us in making our pitch better.
Amazing. Well, let's talk about the technology and the product. There's been a lot of innovation in the seaweed space. So tell us about the product and tell us about, why your technology is novel and the opportunity that it represents.
What makes our product unique is that we have developed this yeast strain that can actually tolerate the high levels of salt that you find in seaweed. So usually when people process seaweed, they use fresh water, but we have developed a strain that is actually tolerant to these high levels of salt that is in seaweed. So we can process the seaweed as in itself. And also we have made the strain tolerant to the high amount of ethanol that it produces, so we can maximize the yield obtained from it.
Keshav, how scalable is what you're developing?
In terms of scale, the seaweed industry is growing year by year, and they are producing a lot of waste. For example, the alginate industry. So the pure seaweed that they use the product, they take out alginate from it, and 70% of what is left behind is just discarded as it is. So it is definitely a lot of this waste that is just going up in landfills. So we want to use that as an initial sort of feedstock. And if you look at a bigger scale, climate change is actually causing algal blooms in the Caribbean. So we want to expand to that as a feedstock in the later stages of our venture.
So I guess a similar question, what are you going to do with the prize money, and what does the kind of near future look like for the development of the company?
Yeah, so as we mentioned during the pitch, we would like to use the prize money to patent our technology because we haven't patented the strain that we have developed. So it will go towards the pool of money that we are collecting towards patenting the strain. And what we see us in the near future is engaging with more customers and getting a pilot signed through engagement with these customers so that we can actually conduct a pilot study and scale up our technology and test its efficiency at a bigger scale.
Fantastic. Philip, one thing I loved in your pitch was the fact that you said, being in Cambridge is almost like the home of photonics. So you couldn't be in a better place to do this. So why don't you introduce yourself and introduce the technology in the company?
First of all, thank you for putting on such a great event. I think we all enjoyed it. I'm part of Phase Shift, and what we do is we take traditional bulky optics and move them to a chip. So that improves robustness and specifically scalability. So what we do is we pattern thin films, which are about a micron thick, with exotic patterns. And then we can do optical functions with those, like lensing or polarization control. And we try to take optical systems that are used in industry now and design and miniaturize them in a way that they can scale and also, say, be deployed in environments where it might be a bit noisy for those classical systems.
And your kind of beachhead market is quantum computing, right? Another area of expertise for Cambridge. So describe what kind of impact your technology is going to make in quantum.
Yeah, so our beachhead is quantum computing mainly because we have direct experience working with N4 companies in that space. And quantum computing is at a stage now where, they have moved from an academic setting, a research setting, into industry, but they're effectively just very fancy academic experiments, and they're stuck at this low-level qubit count. What that means is that they can't actually implement the complex algorithms that they want to because they just need more qubits and a more computational space to deploy these algorithms. And so what they want to do is reach around 2 million, so it's about 8,000 times increase of the size of the systems now by 2030. And so they need to radically change how they design their optical systems. And that's where we come in.
I think James mentioned in the introduction then about, in your pitch, you talked about the Cambridge ecosystem. And on that slide, you've obviously got history as well, working for other quantum companies within the team, but you specifically made reference to New Quantum. So how do you see those collaborations helping you to progress? Cambridge
is, as I mentioned, it's like the number one cluster globally for quantum companies. And so that it's really helpful that they're right here. I mean, I can go and it's a 5-minute walk to see New Quantum. And, they're developing their technology, and they might have a specific pain point when it comes to optics or photonics. And so we would collaborate on they might give us a mini project to see, make a proof of concept for one of their devices. And then once we go through that challenge, they might set us, now scale it to a larger size. And so it's really helpful to be able to directly interface with them. We don't have to wait a day to do an online meeting and then wait a few weeks to go and meet them in person. We can just walk over the road. And I think that would be really important to see, when we use our systems with industry partners, we can get immediate feedback on what we need to change and what is good.
Yeah, and I also like the fact on one of the slides you had Continuum, you had New Quantum, and then you have Wave Photonics. So you've actually got that whole spectrum of companies, organizations within quantum that are very, very different scale that you can leverage from. The last thing I wanted to ask you was, like James, about spending the money. I think you had the clearest explanation, which was you wanted to, of course, continue with the R&D, but actually it was about getting out there and meeting more people and going to events. So tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so we'd like to use the prize money to go to conferences and events in this space where we can meet quantum computing companies or quantum sensing companies or people who want to employ photonics or micro optics. And then we can meet with them. We can sort of do a mini pitch of our idea and how we can help them. And really that's what is difficult, is we need to go and reach out to these people. And so the money will really help us to go to conferences, and there are more and more each year because the UK government is pushing this quantum technologies program. And so we really want to take advantage of the fact that they're pushing this and use that ecosystem.
Yeah, fantastic, and congratulations. Savas, it was so lovely to see you again for the final this year. You were obviously a previous finalist last year. I think one of the things that I really love about the competition is we try to bridge between years and bring teams back. And the Angel Prize that you won is all about recognizing and celebrating commercial progress since we first saw you. So, I mean, it sounds like Pinepeak are just smashing it. First of all, tell us about Pinepeak, because obviously some listeners will be unfamiliar. But then let's explore the progress you've made in the 12 months since you first appeared in the competition.
Well, first of all, thanks so much for having me once again to pitch. It's always a pleasure to be, part of the Cambridge ecosystem somehow. I learn a great deal every time I come and pitch. And also it gives me the opportunity to reflect about my company and the progress. So thanks very much for helping us do that. So yeah, I'm Savas Gantonas. I'm co-founder and CEO of Pinepeak. We are a spin-out from the University of Cambridge, and we predict wildfires. All that rooted in jet engine combustion research that we did many years ago in the Department of Engineering, and now translated that into something that works for wildfire forecasting, rooted again on physics and that research, but also augmented by AI and an awful lot of data. Now we solve problems for the insurance industry, and we are developing trust with some partners in the space. And yes, we are doing pretty good progress since last year. It has been a very turbulent year with lots of ups and downs, many more downs than ups. But it looks like this past 3 months, things start clicking together, and a lot of good things happen at the same time. So now it feels like we're in a rocket, really, and going from strength to strength. Winning the competition was, let's say, part of that. I think just we have the momentum right now, and we need to take advantage of it to complete our fundraise. That is our biggest need right now, and to win more customers that will help us succeed in the future.
And Savas, I was going to say, sitting in the audience, the presentation was night and day. I mean, what you've achieved in the last 12 months, I think is really quite remarkable. Just the confidence and how you presented and what you presented was great. You've just mentioned those pilots and customers, you're starting to generate revenue. So very, very well deserved to you. I guess my question is, you've got this huge target, 20 million annual recurring revenue in 5 years' time. How confident are you that with the funding and the right level of support that is actually achievable?
That's a great question. Some investors would say that's not a very ambitious target. Some will say that's actually a pretty, let's say, low target. And these are interesting discussions we're having. But I think in the space we're operating in is not really a dream. It is achievable because basically it is a simple multiplication. It is what your annual contract value that you can aim for in this space. And in insurance, it is reasonable to achieve a multi-million annual contract value, although we are not at this stage yet. So I'm just saying that's a target. And then it's a simple multiplication of how many customers you have. And they can be measured with your fingers so that you can achieve this target. And you don't need a huge sales team and all that stuff. You just need to focus on product execution and making sure the model does what it should. It's simple.
I'm maybe going to draw back the curtain a little bit to give you a peek inside what was happening in the judging room. So I think one of the things that swung it for you was the fact that you've kind of got two product lines. You've got the predictive model for the insurance industry, but then you're also looking at how your technology can be deployed into, emergency response and, planning and the public side. I think the judges were impressed by that. So my question, I guess, as a CEO of a startup, obviously focus is fundamental, right? So how are you kind of thinking about how you split resources or split time to develop these two things in parallel?
I don't have a good answer to that because it's constant chaos within the team. It's chaos. We are struggling so much to prioritize. It is insane. Well, what we have been doing well is trying to at least modularize our technology and making sure we have building blocks that when we put together in various combinations and forms to create these products. And yeah, I think we have a plan that will work, but as I have found out, so many things go, so many things fail. And yeah, God laughs whenever we make plans, doesn't he? So yeah, it is a challenge. So to be very transparent with you, actually for the second value proposition with this disaster response, we see a lot of problems that are operational. It's not just how you sell it, but it's also how you maintain, how do you ensure, some service level, right, that is of high quality. And we are not able to support it in the team as of now. We need to probably triple or quadruple the team to be able to have this level of service. So that's why we don't prioritize it, but we still pitch it and show it because our technology can be directly transferred to that. And I think a priority for me as the CEO, as you said, will be to, let's say, find the right partners to at least try to grow this part of the business through a platform so we don't have all this responsibility. And I know there's a lot of new players in the field that also try to bring agentic AI and this type of technologies that are pretty new. And I think we could very well plug in our modeling capability into all that with less revenue and upside for us, but at least gives us the opportunity to scale that bit.
Yeah, I mean, I love the honesty there. And we saw some of that honesty as well from other pitchers on the evening as well. I think often there's a little bit, I describe it as a little bit of Hollywood around startups. People always talk about the good news. They talk about the raises. They talk about, and of course it's positive and it's exciting. And I wouldn't want to be working in any other space. But I think we don't talk enough about how high pressure it is, how stressful it is. Things can go wrong, so I love the honesty from many of the presenters. And as I said to you all when we were going through the coaching, it is a safe space. We're here to help, right? So it's nice to see that people do trust that and can be open and honest with their challenges. I guess there's not much else left to do than just congratulate you all again. You all really performed so well on the night. Hopefully it led to lots of really good conversations with the people in the room. And this is just the beginning, right? And so we're here to support you for the long term. You've got the mentoring, the support from the Bradfield Centre, more exposure through things like the podcast and connections into the media. So I can't wait to continue working with you all.
Thank you, James. Thank you so much for your time and the visibility as well.
Brilliant. That was a great update from the team. Well done, James, to all of you. And I guess you get a little bit of rest now before it all starts all over again.
Yeah, it's pretty much a year-round thing, actually. Yeah, there's only a couple of months of downtime. All the teams are now doing their media work, getting the coverage that they all deserve, and mentors. And then it all starts again, pretty much. So, yeah, looking forward to the next one.
And you always ask our guests this, so I'm going to ask you, where do they go for more information?
TrinityBradfieldPrize.co.uk.
Today's show was produced by Carl Homer of Cambridge TV and supported by our media partner, Business Weekly. The Cambridge Tech Podcast is available on all major podcast platforms and on cambridgetechpodcast.com. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please give it a 5-star review. It'll really help others discover the show.
Now you can get directly involved with the show. Leave us up to 60 seconds of audio by visiting cambridgetechpodcast.com on your computer or phone and click Call the Show from the menu. Send us your news items, events to promote, leave us feedback or suggest a guest.